All right, so I'm planning a trip to Alaska. I've done a lot of cross-country trips. I've done a lot of other closer trips, but Alaska's kind of been in the back of my mind for many years. My grandparents actually went on an Alaska cruise when I was a kid, and I remember seeing, like, you know, because it was developed film at that point. I remember seeing the stack of film that was just like amazing, like the glaciers and just the look of the landscape. So I always knew that I wanted to see Alaska, and probably go on a cruise. I just didn't expect it to be this type of cruise. So I kind of had Alaska in the back of my head and just as a bucket list item personally for myself for a really, really long time. I think I would love to see Canada, and I definitely wanted to hit all the 50 states, and you know, Alaska being one of them. So this is kind of something that I slowly developed the idea that I think I might be interested in doing. But 2 years ago, I was at Babes Ride Out East Coast and was very strongly encouraged to do some of the test rides, and I had the Pan America and the being an adventure bike that I was interested in. Knowing that the adaptive ride bike when I'm only 5'3", and the other adventure bikes that I had hopped on previously had my legs like dangling, I really was interested in trying it. So after a little bit of peer pressure and encouragement, I did take it out for an hour, and I don't know at what point I fell in love with the Pan America, but it happened. I knew that I had to have one, and I knew from that ride that Alaska was possible. I know I could take my bagger. Realistically, it's not ideal. And as a solo female traveler, you do what you can to make things a little bit more ideal and safe for you. And having the appropriate bike, or one that would make your trip a little bit easier, was really important to me. So in June of 22, that's where it really started. That's where the wheels were set in motion, and it was going to happen. Okay. So past that, though, I obviously needed to figure out how to get a new bike into my budget. I am a collector of motorcycles. I do have a garage full of them, but they're older bikes. The newest one I have is the Road Glide, and it's a 2011, and I got a screaming deal on that. So adding a new bike into my garage was just something that I had to work for. So in about a year after that, the finances were closer to where I was comfortable putting myself into that position. So I did start looking at Pan Americas at that point, and kind of just getting an idea of what features that I needed. And I knew that I did want to possibly get one of the newer versions of the Pan America. The 21 did have a little bit more electrical issues, but also knowing that I was going to buy an extended warranty, I just had to weigh those options. So the following year, I was able to find a couple to test ride and work around with some numbers, and finally was able to purchase my 22 Harley Davidson Pan America from Warhorse Harley in December of 23. So after getting the bike, what's next, right? So I did kind of start rough planning at that point. So in December, I kind of just hopped on Google Maps, which is what I typically do for most of my trips, and start dragging that little line around. At that point, I did look a little bit more into the Alaska Highway and some of the things about it, and where I would possibly want to stay or avoid. Obviously looking into some of the critters up there, and just having a really rough idea of what I was going to go. And that's how in January I announced that I was actually going to do this, because after kind of playing around with a rough plan, it was clear that this was definitely going to be a possibility for me. And now I'm only able to take off a couple weeks at a time. Like, I have a profession that allows me to kind of scoot some of my clients to different ends of the month. I don't have PTO or anything, so everything's just regular, you know, if you don't work, you don't get paid. But I was able to save up enough, and the hard part, though, is I'm still a mom, and planning around, you know, the school schedule and those kind of things was kind of just the challenges when it comes to to how to make that possible for me. So once in January, I finally announced that I was going to do this and had kind of a good idea of roughly where I wanted to go. At that point, I was starting to plug things into my En-Route app, which is one of my other favorite apps to actually plan stuff. I do pay for the pro version of it, so I'm able to do unlimited waypoints. This gave me the ability to plug in things like the southernmost point buoy and like mile zero and a couple other those really specific stops that I wanted to make sure that happened. Once said and done, I had 50 waypoints on the En-Route map, but it did give me a good base on where to go. After that, continuing to plan day by day is where that's the next hard challenge. So I'm type A, I brought out the spreadsheet and then was able to start kind of sectioning it out to how many miles I would want to do in a day and how many hours that I'd be riding. And that's how it really works for me. After having a good idea of where I'm going, then I start sectioning it out to where it's probably, a safe mileage per day and, places to stay too. So some areas, they're either more expensive or maybe not as safe. So those are kind of things that I do look for after I've started to have that really rough plan. And after getting my spreadsheet kind of set, I was able to then reach out to a couple people that lived along my route, and they helped me out with places to stay, and that's really nice because, of course, being gone a month, the hotel costs add up. Now, typically I camp for these trips, but not this one. I did end up choosing to do hotels the whole way with a bunch of people trying to convince me that's the best way to do it. The Alaska wilderness is not exactly something to be fucked with, and it also saves a little bit of time. It is much easier to just take your bags off and run into a hotel room than pack up camp every night. So I do see the benefit of, if I'm on a time crunch, to hook up the hotels instead of the campsites, but it can be a little bit of a challenge. All right, so after I got my Pan America and I got my plan kind of set and announced that I was going to do this, I was still very nervous about having a 22 Pan America because, again, there's known problems. It's a new bike. You kind of accept this as part of the adventure. So I did start planning smaller trips. The first trip I did was a little quick overnight Ormond Beach. It's about an hour away, easy camp, and no issues there. After that, for my birthday, I wanted to go to the Everglades and had a little group of us. We were able to camp in the Everglades, go down, super fun, easy peasy. After that, I went a little further into the Keys for the next trip. Following that, I was like, okay, we can take this puppy out of state, and I rode up to Tennessee for the Tennessee Motorcycle Music Revival. Even was strongly encouraged to take her off-road up there, and again, giving into peer pressure because I do have friends that really do look out for me. We actually took her off-road with mostly street tires in the clay muck, whatever Tennessee is, and that was a super fun adventure. But again, no major issues. She did get a little warm with so much mud being in her radiator, but thankfully that was able to be cleared out before I even left, so no issues there. After that, I figured the following month in July, we ended up going all the way up to New York and New Hampshire. I ended up attending Babes Ride Out East Coast again, which is great because 2 years after falling in love with a motorcycle, I was actually able to take mine on the same route that I fell in love with one of their demo bikes. So that was really cool and a full circle moment for me. On that trip, I also did my first 1,000-mile day on that bike, and it quite honestly felt perfect. So I'm really excited that, that works out really, really well. And then I ended up doing my first international border crossing through Southern Ontario, coming into New Hampshire, enjoying New Hampshire for Laconia Bike Week, and doing a little loop through Maine, and then making my way back. So all of those trips, with the exception of needing a new, key fob on the way back from New Hampshire, I had zero issues. So I'm pretty confident in this coming trip that this Pan America is still the right choice. I found a good one that doesn't have any major mechanical or electrical issues. Now I have dressed her up quite a bit. I think if you look at her now, you can see all the extra accessories. I have a Madstad windshield, the Denali lights, which you can't miss me from outer space, I think. I have a couple other little accessories from Moto Machines, a seat from Corbin. So she is gussied up now, I think, to take on this whole Alaska adventure. So not only did I plan this out slowly but surely and trying to figure out which way I'm going, I think I planned out how to have my motorcycle set up to set me up for success for this ride too. So that's the gist of how my planning went, okay? The next thing for this adventure, like what to wear. I did decide to purchase a Klim super suit. I have the Artemis jacket and pants. I know that's just the women's cup. There's a lot of men's cuts too, but their stuff's like top-notch quality. I really like the Klim stuff. I will be wearing my Shoei helmet. And I do have a pair of Harley boots. They say they're waterproof, but I'm a little skeptical. So I do have some like boot covers, and we'll see how that goes. But beyond that, what I've actually packed in my bike, besides the things that already live there, I always have a first aid kit. I always have a set of tools. I have a tire pump and plug kit. I also have a spare fuel pump. It's kind of a known issue for these Pan Americas to have a couple issues wrong with them. The right hand module for some of them go out. But the fuel pump's kind of like the big thing. Everybody seems to be going through these fuel pumps every like 10 to 15,000 miles. Before this trip, I'm right now at like 14,000. So I kind of feel like I'm on borrowed time almost. So I had my guy at work order me one in, and it's in the box too. So we'll see how that goes. So what I'm gonna wear under my super suit is, I'm a pretty simple girl. I just wear leggings and like a t-shirt. I do have a couple changes of regular jeans to ride in, long sleeve shirts, you know, the regulars. But I do think for the super suit, it's easy to just put leggings or something under it. I know the guys like generally put like gym shorts or something too. But that's kind of the plan on what's on the bike, what I'm planning for the whole trip. I think that's about it.